Welcome to The Talent Show. Take a listen to my good friend, Fred Rogers. You know him well. Let's have him break down things for us real quick to get started.
You know, my mother used to say, a long time ago, whenever there would be any really catastrophe that was in the movies or on the air, she would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. She would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. You know, even just on the sidelines. That's what
I was in the car business for 20 years and working 60 hours a week. And I really felt like something was missing in my life.
When you follow your calling, you never know where it will lead.
How did this all start for you?
I wanted to help out our church, but we've been all virtual. So, I mean, it's not. No, I always said if I could get out of the car business, I would be more apt to, I'd have more time to like provide a service of some sort to do good.
When did you get out of the car business?
February 29th last year.
Following your calling and taking the road less traveled will not be easy. But in the end, it'll work out better for you and everyone else you're connected with if you do.
Started working more reasonable hours. Started paying attention to stuff and being hurt by stuff going on. You know, just being like, man, that's not right, you know? And, you know, it's just a different life for me. And I'm happy for that, but it's a more meaningful life.
All right, let's get into this. But I gotta start off by saying this is not a promotion show. We're not promoting anybody in this show. This show is not about giving congratulations to anybody involved. This show is about showing a slice of real life, showing you what happens in real life when you follow your calling. It's not always about being something glamorous, building a business. Sometimes it's about giving. Sometimes your calling is just to give. And I got a news flash. No matter what you feel you're being called to do, if it isn't related to giving and sharing and building up those around you, it's not the calling you're looking for. I'm going to let John tell his story. I think y'all should listen. You might want to turn away because it talks about substance abuse, it talks about homelessness, it talks about living in your car. But I think you should listen. Enjoy the talent show.
John, I think it's kind of really cool what you did. How did it impact the family? And what you did, by the way, was, you know, you invited a friend into your home when he was in need. And I want you to maybe go through that. And I also want you to tell me, you know, in the context of what that meant to the family, right? Maybe you could start off by like really big picture.
Well, really big picture, last July, late July, it's 100 degrees here. And I get a call from a mutual friend saying, hey, just want to let you know Greg's living out of his car. And that was really difficult to hear. He lived in Richmond. I lived in Chesapeake. It's about 2 hours away. And I went right to Facebook and I put a post in there saying, got a friend who's fallen on some hard times, needs a little help, needs a room. He has a job, you know, just doesn't have anywhere to stay. He's living in his car right now. I hadn't talked to Greg in 15 years, 10 years probably. But it's been a long time. So I wasn't sure, you know, what the situation was, but I had some people reach out and say, hey, I'll keep an ear out. You know, other people that I hadn't talked to in a while. So then about an hour and a half later on that same post, Greg responds, thank you so much, John. and that was like a complete shock.
Mm.
That he was living in his car. He had enough to pay for a cell phone bill, and he was on Facebook. So about 20 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was him. And he was calling from a different number than I had in my phone. And we talked for a few minutes, and he was in the lobby of a hotel trying to get air conditioning. And I said, "What you doing?" And he said, "I'm just trying to make it." And he worked Thursday to Sunday at his job, and was off Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. But he was going to Wise and sneaking into hotels to get showers, and
Yeah.
going to food banks and things like that just to survive. And it was extremely warm here in Virginia. I sat down with my wife at the soccer game that we were at and continued watching that. And I told my wife, I said, "I feel like I need to call him. I need to do something." And she said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "We need to at least invite him down after his work on Sunday and just see what we can do to help, see what the situation is." I didn't know, what was going on. So I called him up and I said, "Why don't you come down after work on Sunday? Stay here, get some AC, swim in my pool. We'll feed you, have a couple days, and let's just talk and figure out what we can do." And he said, "Well, how about Monday?" I said, "Well, you can come Monday if you want to sleep in your car Sunday night. That's fine." He said, "I'll see you Sunday night."
A sales guy, and you
So,
couldn't help it, right? You closed him on that. Good job.
yeah. Now, that was all fine and dandy till Sunday came, and I was like, "What did I get myself into?"
Right.
Because I wasn't sure. I was like, "I don't know
Right.
what his situation was." And he showed up, and uh, he was pretty emotional that I'd reached out to him.
How so?
Just, he was trying to tell me the story of what happened and what break down. I said, "You know what, Greg, you don't even have to tell me the story right now. Just go up, get a shower, get comfortable, and we'll talk tomorrow. And, or you can, whenever you're ready." He slept. He didn't come out of that room until 5 o'clock the next day.
Wow.
And the first day, that was Monday. And of course, COVID was going on, so I was working from home.
Okay.
And the first day, or I'm sorry, on Sunday, he had worked all day, like 4 days straight, no sleep. So, he was ragged. He was tired. Not gonna lie, he smelled of alcohol, which concerned me. And but the next day, and he looked like an old man. I mean, he's not an old man. He's 57 years old, but he's not a young man either. But he looked a lot older and worn. He got up the next day at 5 o'clock, or came down after getting a shower, looked like the Greg I remembered from 10, 15
Really?
years ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he didn't smell of alcohol. I think he
Yeah.
was nervous, and he was in the parking lot of the grocery store not far from here. And he was just trying to get the courage up to come see me. So he came in, and I couldn't send him back to Richmond in that situation. I realized he wasn't abusing drugs, and he's the same guy that I remember, just, had some troubling times. And I know some people in the car industry and other retail, and I was able to get him an interview at a local motorcycle shop, which he was asked to join the team, and he was selling motorcycles. And he said, I said, "You stay as long, you stay." And he said, "I'll be out in a month or two." And I said, No. This is in early August or late July. I said, let's plan the first of the year. There's no reason for you to have one decent month and throw you out of here, and then you'd be back where you started.
Mm-hmm.
So let's first of the year. First of the year came and went, and he was getting pretty comfortable, and I don't blame him. I wasn't charging him anything, but he was not. He pretty much stayed to himself. He didn't really. He felt like a burden, but we tried real hard not to have him feel like a burden. I mean,
How did go ahead, finish your thought. Yeah, no, well, here, let me go here. How do you know he felt like a burden? And how did you
Oh,
try to bring him in?
oh, he told us. He said, I'm not going to be a burden. You guys do your own thing, and he just kept to himself. He'd come down once in a while. We'd talk and watch football together, and um, but for the most part, he was of no bother.
How much
Um,
so let's you guys were on so you get the news, you go on Facebook, an hour and a half later you guys are connected, right?
mhm.
The guy's working ragged 4 days a week, and we know that he has enough money for a car, a cell phone, gas for the car, and I guess whatever else, right? The bare
Mhm.
minimum from there. Now he's in your house and you guys can't connect to kind of save your life, to save his life, right? What do you think happened there?
I wouldn't
I'm
say
not
we
trying
didn't.
to.
I wouldn't say we
Okay,
didn't
yeah, I'm not.
connect.
Okay, all
I
right.
wouldn't say we didn't connect because we
So
we we
why?
did spend some time.
Yeah, I get it. I don't mean to, and I was going to say right before you said we didn't connect, I don't mean to say you guys, that something was wrong. But what I hear when you say he was feeling like he may be a bother, right? You guys tried to bring him in, that there was a disconnect to some degree. I don't know. Maybe you help me understand that a little bit more.
I wouldn't say that there was an effort on his part not to interfere with what was going on or with our family.
Interesting. Okay.
We'd
He was
invite
very
him to dinner.
conscientious. Okay.
Oh yeah, I think he was trying to be respectful. That
Overly,
he
like
didn't
almost
over.
very, very
Yeah,
touchy. So dinner
exactly.
was a thing. Like, how many times did you like? How many opportunities did he miss to come down for dinner? Percentage wise, I mean, nights of the
Well,
week. I mean, assume
I
I don't
would
know.
say a couple times a week he'd eat dinner with us. So I mean that was cool. And then a couple times a month he made dinner for us. So
Okay.
it was overall, pretty good, but it was not sustainable
Yeah.
because and we for Christmas Day we wanted him to. He's like, I'll be fine. I'll be in my room. No, you're part of our family. You need to be down there with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And it was great. He asked how it impacted our family, and it was Christmas Eve, and we were watching the Christmas service online on our TV, and Greg had joined us, and my kids were there, and we were watching. And afterwards, it was 9 o'clock, the 9 o'clock service, and then afterwards, I told Greg, I said, I hope you're planning on joining us tomorrow in the morning. We had a few gifts for him, little stuff. And he said, no, no, this is your time. I'm not going to interfere. I said, no, no, no. We want you to be part of this. And he kind of got emotional. And he's like, he was just moved by it. And he went up to his room. And he said, I'll join you. And he went up to his room. And I told my daughter, who's 13, I said, I think we've made an impact on Greg. And I appreciate the sacrifices you made to make this work. And she said, I just like seeing him happy. And it meant the world to me. I mean, if nothing else, I taught my daughter a valuable lesson, and my son. He's a little harder to connect with. He's 17.
Well, she taught
So,
herself a lesson, maybe. What, and they taught themselves lesson. What did she have to This is amazing that, the perspective there. We don't have to go into terribly personal
yeah.
detail, but where did she, where was her service?
Well, she recognized that there was somebody in need. Like she's
Hmm.
never experienced anybody. You know, my wife and I do pretty well, and we've been very blessed from a financial standpoint and career wise. And my daughter's never really seen anybody suffer. You know, who's suffering, who needed some help. And I remember as a kid, my father was a giver, and he took a young woman that was pregnant and kicked out of her house. He brought her into the family, and she lived with us for a couple of years. I think a couple of years. I mean, I was only 10, 12, something like that. Um, but those are the lessons that our parents give us that we don't even realize are happening. You know, we don't even realize the lesson that we're learning, that you got to give. You got to give. There are a lot of people out there that need us. And so I think it really affected her. And my son, he was impacted by it, but from a lesser extent. He the two of them, Greg and Connor, my son, who's 17 now, shared a bathroom. But my son's kind of he's kind of not territorial, but he likes his own space, and he's to himself. And he went to use the shower downstairs and the bathroom downstairs. You know, he made sacrifices himself, um, to allow, not to allow, but to accept Greg. Never complained. Nobody ever complained, not once. And I wish Greg knew that. Um, but it wasn't sustainable. It was never designed to be sustainable, you know. And so I think that people come into our lives for different reasons. And my wife and I went to a neighbor's house for some wine and cheese, and we were talking. I had been online and looking for rooms to rent. He didn't need that much. And there just wasn't much out there. I mean,
Hmm.
it was really scarce. I was like, oh, how are we going to do this? And we're having a little wine get together with this other couple down the street, and we mentioned it, and she goes, "Oh, my friends rent rooms. They have several rental properties, and they rent rooms." I'm like, really? Yeah. And we made contact right then and there, and they had a room available. And that was on like a Friday night. And that following Sunday in early February, we go out and tour it. Greg and I tour it, and it's not exactly where you want to live, or exactly, you know, the location. Um, but it was only $600 a month, and included all utilities, and it was the right price, and it was a room that was available, and it could be a few month situation, or it could be a 2 year or longer situation, whatever you wanted it to be. And he accepted that, and we moved him in a couple weeks later, and that was around mid-February of this year. And March 1st, he lost his job. And I
What
didn't know
happened?
till, I don't know. I don't know. They told me that the company made a decision. They were just going to go a different direction. They were going to part ways. I know he complained to me that he was selling motorcycles, and that he didn't have the strength to get the motorcycles in and out of the showroom. And he felt like that was something that was really hurting him from a standpoint of whether he was a good employee or not.
Poor guy.
Moving the stuff around, and
do he have health problems in general? I saw the picture. Does he have health problems in general up at that point? Besides just being, I mean, he's 57, right? Like moving motorcycles. I don't mean to be harsh on Greg at all. So like, you know what I mean? Like you said, he was looking old. Like, is there a reason he was having that trouble?
Well, that's what I was going to get to actually.
Okay.
Because it didn't make sense at the time, but he's like, I'm 57 years old, and I'm not as strong as I used to be. And he said that might be an issue, but so far he was selling motorcycles and things were going pretty well, and through a tough economy he was doing pretty well, and he lost his job, and then about 10 days after that he was rushed to a hospital and an ambulance because he couldn't hardly move.
Oh my God.
And then about a week to 10 days later, same thing. Rushed to the hospital in an ambulance because he couldn't hardly move.
Oh, so he made it home after that?
He
made it home and then it happened again.
Yeah, he made it home because he called me and asked me if I could pick him up.
Oh my God. So he got rushed to the hospital because he couldn't move, made it home at some point after getting treated, and then it happened again?
Yeah, like a week to 10 days later.
And
the last episode happened 2 Tuesdays ago. Today's Wednesday the 10th of May. No, today's Monday the 10th of May. Sorry. And but 2 Tuesdays ago, same thing. Rushed to the hospital. This was his third visit in a month. And he calls me up and he says, "Hey, can you come pick me up?" I said, "Pick you up? How do you feel?" "Terrible." "Can you move?" Barely." I said, "All right, well, you need to have the doctor call me." Doctor called me. I said, "Doctor, you need to reconsider letting him go right now. He's been rushed to the hospital 3 times. We did a wellness check 2 days ago on him because we couldn't get in touch with him. He lives by himself on the 2nd floor. I thought it was an alcohol problem, and it may be an alcohol problem, but we had scheduled rehab for him. I said, he needs to go into detox. He needs to go into detox. We have rehab already set up. We have Medicaid in the works. We've already processed that, but you cannot send him home. He will not make it through the night or through the weekend." Guess where Greg is on May 10th? He's still in the hospital. So
is he is he?
He's very conscious.
Okay.
Has always been conscious.
Okay.
But the issue was, for years he's been diagnosed as diabetic.
Yeah.
But based on his living situation, his eating situation, and the drinking that became a little more prevalent during his time of depression after losing his job and being fearful of everything financially, he went into a diabetic craziness. It took him till just 3 days ago to get his blood sugar from 300 to 100.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds like from
I'm
crazy.
not sure exactly what that means either. But basically for 10 days, they couldn't get his blood sugar where it needs to be. And the last 3 days, he's been stable. And he is waiting on a bed at a nursing home to get physical therapy and occupational therapy. And that could have happened today. I've not heard one way or another today. So yeah, it's been
So,
kind of crazy, but during all this, there's been some phenomenal things that have happened. And one of them is when I called after he was taken the third time, I called his landlord, who was a friend of my neighbor's, to tell him, hey, sorry for all the disruptions. We're trying to get him straight. Well, his wife was the director of social services of Norfolk and has all sorts of connections. She's the one that told me that if they let Greg leave, if they let him go, you need to put your foot down and don't take that for an answer. Don't let them let him go.
mm,
So God works in mysterious ways.
yeah, because you wouldn't have done that.
No, I'm actually very passive and very I'm not a fan of confrontation too much. And if a doctor said it was time to leave, I would have probably agreed with that. But I knew we
Yeah,
couldn't do I knew we couldn't keep doing what we are doing, and I knew he needed help, and I knew he didn't have the funds for it, nor did he have insurance other than the Medicaid that was in process.
yeah. And these are things that just aren't an accident, right? You said it. It's the Holy Spirit, God, like, that connection was made by design, you know,
Absolutely.
because you don't lean into something as out of character as that is for you without some sort of guide. And that's why this is so important to John. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to speak, because that's why you never know the connection, right? That's gonna open up the door. Anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean,
You, you
it's
said there was more
amazing.
things, but yeah, that's amazing. It blows me away. Who is this woman? Because I thought when you were telling the story that I had it chronologically wrong, but who was she? How'd you run into her?
Who's that? The one that had the
The,
connections
yeah,
to,
the woman that was, part of
well,
the
here, I called
social
the
services,
landlord.
right? Yeah.
So what prompted me calling the landlord was because they had asked for my number after the last incident with
Okay.
from my friend that lives in my neighborhood down the street from me, our mutual friend. So I figured, hope I better be on top of this. Let me call them before they call me and just explain that we have some medical things that we're dealing with. You know, his roommates were concerned about him. They had to pick him up off the floor a few times because he didn't have the strength to get from the bathroom back to his bed, back to his
Oh my
room.
God.
Um, just some really, really scary stuff. But they'd asked for my number, so I called them and explained what was going on. And she was such a blessing. When I talked to her, he, or I'm sorry, the landlord's wife, he said, why don't you give her a call? Let her know what's going on. She may be able to help. This is sort of her
Gotcha.
expertise. He
Yeah.
said, and then she says, well, we open these rooms up knowing that we're going to be facing some of this with our renters. We're doing this. This is part of our service. Yeah, it's a business that we do, but we're here to help people. And these people aren't here because they've had perfect credit and never had a issue come up in their life. They're here because they've fallen on some hard times, whether it be a disability, whether it be drug abuse, whatever it is. And we're
Despair.
here. Yeah, exactly. And she says that's kind of what our mission is to help people. And she said, we're not, she's like, I am so happy that things are going exactly how they're supposed to be going. And I'm like, really? They don't feel it. I feel so out of control. But the truth is, to get help, especially from a substance abuse side of things, the best way to get help is to go through an emergency room. Otherwise, you can't get any help if you don't have insurance. So, and I've worked really closely with a good friend of mine and also Greg's ex-wife, who stepped up to the plate and has made phone calls and done a lot of the behind the scenes type stuff. And because I live, and she lives in Richmond, and I live here in Chesapeake, which is 30 minutes from where he lives. I'm sort of I've been kind of relied on to take him places and to help out with those situations. Now, luckily, it hasn't. I've been able to make it work with my schedule because I've got a schedule too. But he doesn't know how many people, or he does know, but I hope he knows and appreciates all the people that are pulling for him and that love him and want to see him back in full health and clean. When I say clean, abstaining from alcohol.
What's Greg's? Were you able to talk about Greg's like purpose? Like, what's he living for? Because he needs a reason. It seems like I mentioned despair because I don't know Greg, but a lot of people turn to substance abuse, be it alcohol, drugs, because there's something else missing, and a lot of times it could just be a real blockage that's keeping them from tapping into a purpose, or they forgot to define a purpose or set a name, right? So
sure. Well, I can
he's
tell
now getting
you,
on his feet, like, you know what I mean? Like, go ahead, yeah.
I can tell you exactly who he cares about and what he cares about, and that's his kids. They're grown, but he loves them dearly and misses them. And I'm not sure exactly what the relationship is. I know him and his son are close. He has twin daughters that are in their 30s, low 30s, I guess. He found out that his daughter called him in, let's say it was February, and said that she's getting married and she wanted him to attend the wedding. And this was between hospital visit number 1 and hospital visit number 2. And she's getting married in Richmond, and I agree that I talked to his ex, and she told me that it took a lot for his daughter Shannon to invite him. She thought long and hard about it, but overall she wanted him to be there and made that decision. And I took him up there on a Saturday, and we went to the wedding together. And I knew Shannon. I knew his ex from Greg, and I were car guys for a couple of years together. So we've known each other from an occupational standpoint. We had a nice visit and brought him home, and then his son was graduating from college on May 1st, and he was very, very sick, and he was in the hospital, and he said, "I don't think I'm going to be able to go." I said, "No, you're not going to be able to go." You're not going to be able to go. You're in the hospital, and this is 5 hours away. I didn't know how you would get there. And when I felt like, at that time, we felt that the alcohol was the main issue, and the sole issue, really, is what I thought it was. I told him, I said, Greg, the greatest gift you could give your son and your twin girls is to tell them that for years you've asked me to get help and to get rehabilitated. And I'm agreeing to go for that. I'm agreeing to I'm going to go to rehab. That's the greatest gift you can give. So forget going there in person. That's what you need to think about. You need to do it for you, but that would be a great gift. Because there's one other special thing that happened. I talked to you about my father. You know my father. He's a giver.
Yeah.
He's nothing but a giver. You know, I think he has a reputation in the family of other things, but he means nothing but the best for people. And my father, every year at Thanksgiving, every year, we would have somebody who was less fortunate join us for Thanksgiving dinner. He would go pick them up. They'd be in a wheelchair. They'd be a person that just lost their husband or wife that comes over. But every year, somebody would be coming over. And he also, since he's semi-retired now, he runs around. He runs elderly from the church to doctor's appointments. He is a giver. He does nothing but give. And he was helping some lady with her situation and got her car all fixed up, and she was in the hospital. She ended up dying. And then he sold her trailer that she had, sold her car, settled some other things. And the Monday before Greg went to the hospital the last time, I was talking to my dad because I lean on my father for advice, especially when it comes to stuff like this. And I said, I don't know what to do. I mean, I can't, my heart can't let me leave him in a room with no income and nothing. I feel like I need to help somehow, but I don't know what to do. And we talked a little bit, and he said, let me make some phone calls. And he called and found out that the best way into a rehab center is through the emergency room. And he called me back, and he said, you know what? He called me later that afternoon, actually. He called me back to tell me all that, but then he called me back later in the afternoon. He said, you know what? I just called to settle the estate for the woman, I can't remember her name, that passed away. And there was some extra money that I had to turn over. And the attorney said, no, you keep it. You keep it. And he couldn't believe it. And then he called me and he said, I got some money I wasn't expecting. This woman that passed was a giver and was always helping people out. And he said, if Greg wants to do the rehab, I'm going to pay for it out of this money. And this is money that he wasn't expecting. Which was an unbelievable gesture.
Yeah, did that all? Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyway, I don't know where we got cut off.
No, I was listening. It was this all came together, right? This all just came together with the an opportunity for rehab, I guess, over the last few days.
No, it was the Monday. I don't know. We might have had a little disconnection, but the Monday before he went into the hospital last time.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it was a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
So yeah, it was unbelievable. My father got this unexpected money, and he said he's going to pay for it. He's going to pay for it because the woman that he settled an account for, or
yeah.
would have wanted.
I mean, Greg's got the rehab situation, but I know he's got the kids, but what's Greg living for, right? Like, you know, I want to be really nice, but like, just kind of, sitting and watching your kids, is not a reason for living, right? They're out living their own lives. They're getting married. They have their own kids. Being a part of their lives is a reason for being. But,
Yeah.
Greg's not going to get off the alcohol until he finds something more exciting than the alcohol. He's 57 years old, man. I know he's diabetic, but a lot of times I don't know what his situation is, but there's a medication for that. There's a health that can improve that. I've heard the health cures certain types of diabetes. I know there's different types of diabetes, right? But there's a lot ahead of Greg, right? And that's why I think, when I talk about you never know what connection's gonna be the one.
I think he needs to. I think he needs to find that. I mean, right now there may not be a whole lot that he sees, but he doesn't know about the GoFundMe page that I set up for him. I haven't told him about it. But when he does see it and he sees the names of the people that have contributed to it, people that he's known, some people he doesn't know, I hope that he realizes that there are a lot of people that care for him and that life is worth living and that he's willing to make that sacrifice and that change. And he can go back to fishing and go back to getting a job and having a truly quality life. I think it's been several years since he's had much quality in his life. So,
Greg, you can do it. Greg, you can do it. Greg, we love you. Greg, you can do it. I'm serious. Like I don't mean to like, be flippant, but there are a lot of people and it's innate in us, right? Like it's not a joke. Greg, you can do this. And there's a lot of people who are, as emphatic about that truth as I am. Like you literally can do this. You can wrap your head around a new vision of what reality looks like for you, like what your day-to-day looks like. You just need to wrap your head around it. You need to figure out what it is for you. I know you're lost right now. I know you're sick. But you got to start little by little. You've gotten so much help. You're so blessed. You have these kids. You have such an opportunity ahead of you. You have the blessing of giver after giver. I want to see you start giving purposes, Greg. Let's get out there and give. Let's be so active that you don't have time to even think about a bottle, to think about a beer, whatever you went to. Forget the alcohol. I don't want you to have time to think about anything other than giving, if that's what it takes for you to find your purpose. Get active,
absolutely.
Get involved. Yeah, Greg, like we love you, man. Like come out into the world and give, connect with people, right? You can't go wrong with giving. You're at a stage in your life where you probably have a ton to give. You've lived a rich life, right? Just because the last several years have been not the best doesn't mean you can't be an extreme value for everybody you touch on a daily basis. So Greg, I love you, man. You can do this. John, I think you had a question come to you and it sounds like it was a very easy decision, but maybe just go back to where you really had that binary decision, right? You're going to step out and, see what happened after you stepped off the precipice. Was there something that catch you, right? Was faith enough for you there? Was your faith appropriate? Was it truthful? And it sounds like it so far so good, right? You're seeing a lot of good connections are happening, which I think is a sign of good things unfolding. Not guaranteed a straight path upward, but connections are happening. I think activity's good in that regard, but it all started when something came into your life, this piece of information. There was somebody in need, I know your dad showed you that, it was possible, just like the wife of the landlord who showed you it was possible to, kind of assert yourself with the medical staff and the doctors to get the best outcome for Greg. You had a window into the possibility there, and you jumped through it, but you still had to make that decision yourself, right? You still had the
So,
opportunity to take the
Joe,
easy, yeah. So,
as you know, or as I think you know, I was in the car business for 20 years and
right,
working 60 hours a week. And I really felt like something was missing in my life. Income was good, always pretty much excelled in the business, but something was missing. I wasn't contributing because to give myself an opportunity to be a more available husband, a better dad, and a better Christian, and to help in my church and to help those in need. I had no idea that one of my first projects was going to be an old friend with a bunch of issues, but I wouldn't change it for anything. And I feel so fortunate. If I was in the car business, I wouldn't be there, and Greg might not be here either. I think there's a message to just keep your ears open to people that are in need, because you never know what you might be able to do to actually give someone a fighting chance to live. And that's all I'm trying to do, is just give them a chance, to live, and I look forward to more projects here in the future.
wait, listen, that was your specific calling. And, when that message is heard, I want people to not hear you have to, look for the biggest thing, right? Just by it's just by being in touch with what, not what you need, but what's missing in you that makes you be more meaningful to the people around you, right? That's what you were missing, right? You wanted to connect with
Yeah,
your family,
exactly.
you wanted to be better, right? So it's not about, do you do something that kind of sounds drastic, right? I had somebody in my house for 6 months, all these resources are being pooled, it's, magic's happening in a sense. This is a great story, but it's because you are leaning into the calling, whatever it is for you, right? That kind of purpose for you, right? You're displaying it. You're leaning into your talent, which is giving at this point in your life, because that's what you've been called to do. So people, the calling for you is, it might not be giving as directly, but by giving yourself truly and not being ashamed of that, and not being shy about that. Be audacious about that, right? It's audacious to do what you did, John, right? Even though you're being called to contribute more, right? And do these things, it's still a big one, right? Come on, there had to be something in you when this opportunity came along, when the information came along, where you were like, this is probably better rock left unturned. Maybe it's the next one. This one might be too heavy. There was nothing.
No, there was no doubt in my mind. I knew what I needed to do at that time when I got that phone call. There was no doubt in my mind. The only thing that would have changed is if he showed up and had needle marks all over him or something like that. That's the only thing that I wouldn't invite into my home. But no, there was never a question in my mind except for that little apprehension before he came, like, oh boy, what am I getting myself into? But once I saw him, it was just like, nah, this is what we have to do. It's what we have to do. and I'll go knowing I did everything I can. So, and there's really a fine line because you don't want to do too much, also.
Exactly.
And maybe I'm guilty of that, probably a little bit. But I've learned from that a little, as well. And you don't want to enable. I don't think I directly enabled, but I probably should have charged rent and saved the money and gave it to him later. Gave back to him later for his new place or something like that. That's something I would have done differently. So it wasn't such a shock, when he did move out. Not that was a shock. The shock was losing his job. So, but yeah, it's a real fine line to walk to try to help somebody like this and not enable them, and have them rely on you, which may or may not have happened. But I'm still working through that. Those are things I'll learn as I get more and more of a service.
You have to get your hands dirty to learn, John, right? It's not always a clean process to help or to learn these things. Like, this is something, the lack of hesitation for you means, you're supposed to get in there and, learn these things, maybe learn them to refine them for yourself, for the next person that walks into your life, or to share with others, right? Maybe a mixture of both.
Absolutely.
I just want to say that the lack of hesitation is, and then all the positivity, and other connections that have flowed from this just shows you that, when you do follow those callings and the intentions behind them are pure, again, it's not going to be a bed of roses, but the long game is going to play out real well for you and everybody else you're connected with.
Well, and it's not just me; it's my family, it's my wife, and
Exactly.
and my extended family as well. Always made him feel welcome, and like he was part of the family, and most importantly, I think he's in a lot of people's prayers. So I wasn't going to share his message on Facebook, but I felt like I had to. I had to let people know what was going on, so we would get those prayers and potentially some donations to try to help out. So it's been nerve-wracking, but it's been a great experience for me, and taught me a lot about life. It's precious, and to not take life for granted.
Well, listen, John, I think it's a beautiful thing. I thank you for sharing the story. I knew that after our call when did we talk? In January? We talked in like January. So this would have happened 6 months later, right? So this is an alignment with our conversation back then. Even though we didn't talk. Okay, go ahead.
That was January
before
this
that,
year we talked.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right.
So yeah.
Oh, that's right. You would share. Oh, yeah. That's right. Okay, I got it backwards. So I'm way past my bedtime. Do you really go to bed at like 9?
Yeah. Well, last night I did though. Ooh, I slept good. And but I usually go to bed around 10:30 or so, 10:30. So something like that.
I like to be in bed by. I actually do like to be in bed by 9:30. But time is precious, and if you had the opportunity to speak tonight, I want to take advantage of it, and capture it and move on and start mixing it. So
yeah. No, absolutely. I appreciate the invite, and I was hesitant at first because of the personal part about it. for him, mainly for his protection. But I don't, one person listens to this story and it opens their heart a little bit. It's all worth it.
Yeah, what I think I'm going to do is we talk for an hour. I think I'm going to make a goal of probably 20 minutes to a half hour, and might kind of have like 2 or 3 sections. I'm going to try to listen to this and see if I can find something in there. If there's a few themes, and I can set up a couple sections, and we can just grab the best of those 2 themes. I think it was a really good conversation, but I think we can grab some things, and then I think it was really good, man. Like this whole theme of sharing your talents and giving and following those callings, dude, that's huge, because that's the thing, right? Like some people might feel that and be like, well, listen, I gotta keep running fast, right? Like, you made the decision to direct your energy elsewhere, right? And it probably wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, I know you're following your thing. There had to be something, I'm guessing, there had to be something, when you start to feel, you know what I mean? Like, you're out of the car business now, right? Like, did you make some, you know what I mean? Like, how did this all start for you? Like, it wasn't just Greg walking in, right? Like, that's why I went back to January as, so.
No, it's
What was this whole, what was this whole thing?
Really, I want to help out our church, but we've been all virtual. So, I mean, it's not like I started my new
So
job
it was the
March
COVID. So it was during all this that you had like this big calling to give more.
No, I always said if I could get out of the car business, I would be more apt to, I'd have more time to like provide a service of some sort to do good.
I guess you're right. That's a crazy biz with the hours, nights, and weekends all the time. I remember seeing on Facebook you and Devin slanging all hours of the night.
Yeah. If I was in the car business, I would never. First of all, I would never had time to think about it. But second of all, I would not have invited him into my family if I was gone all that time.
Interesting. You wouldn't have had the time to think about it. When did you get out of the car business? Right before COVID, right? Right before
February 29th last year. Yeah, to the minute. And it kind of, so from life was almost easier when I was so busy too, because I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about politics.
Of course.
I didn't care about,
I feel you.
People. I did, but I didn't have time. I didn't watch the news. And then, and then I started working more reasonable hours and, we talked about the politics stuff before, but just started paying attention to stuff and being hurt by stuff going on. Just being like, man, that's not right, and it's just a different life for me, and I'm happy for that, and but it's a more meaningful life. So, but hopefully this has a very happy ending at the end. And I guess the end is not coming for a long time probably, but in the very near future, I hope it has a happy story.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm almost positive it'll be a happy story, but I'll couch that by saying I don't think it's contingent upon Greg's outcome. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means.
I used to say long time ago.
I think I know what that means.
Whenever there would be,
I think we'll be good, man. No, this is really good, man. I think
catastrophe that was
thank you. We're doing a good job
in the movies or on the air. She would say, always look for the helpers.
Maybe do it again.
There will always be helpers. She would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. You know, even just on the sidelines. That's why I think that if news programs could make a conscious effort of showing rescue teams, of showing who medical people, anybody who is coming into a place where there's a tragedy, to be sure that they include that. Because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope. She would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. She would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. She would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. She would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers.